Welcome to the Our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Aaron Lehman, and I'm your host. And this is episode 47 featuring Ambrosia Brown. And I am really excited for our conversation today. Excited for you to get to know Ambrosia. I'm excited to get to know Ambrosia more today through our conversation. And if you are brand new to the Our Healing Voices world, whether you found this on Apple, on Instagram, on TikTok, or YouTube, just a quick backstory on where this came from. I kind of got into like the natural wellness world post college, like just dove into some interesting books and right after college. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. You dive into some interesting books and your mind is expanded and opened in really exciting ways. Ended up finding my way into massage school in 2007 and like just and then the doors just kept opening, right? The new energy, the new education just kept coming, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. It was like this body, mind, spirit wellness world that I was diving into was like very exciting to me. And sometimes I felt incredibly alone on that journey, where it was like, is anybody reading this stuff? Is anybody interested in the power of healing touch? Is this like at all, like, does this interest anybody else, outside of me? And so quickly, just whether it was at massage school or in the yoga teacher world that I was like, when I was studying yoga, and then the social media world, you start to realize there's a lot of people that are on the journey, finding their way, navigating through a variety of modalities to support themselves. And I personally have just really been thankful to find out that I'm not the only one. And so part of this podcast is like, I could probably do episode after episode after episode, just me sharing about things I'm learning. But like for me, I'm really excited to feature other voices because there are so many unique perspectives and so many unique methods and ways in which people find healing, find hope, find meaning in life. And I just want to explore and hear what other people are working on, hear what other people are processing. So that's one piece, is just the desire to remind us all that we're not alone. And then also the voices piece is just that I was raised by two counselors. And so I was regularly encouraged to just share my story, to talk about what I'm walking through, to share my feelings. And that I found that very healing and very helpful to my journey on this life, on this earth. And so providing a space where other people can share their voice feels really important to me. So that's the reason Our Healing Voices began, to just remind us we're not alone on this wellness journey, on this life journey, and also to remind us all that our voices, each of our unique voices, is really important. And so on that note, I will now introduce Ambrosia Brown. And I'm just so excited. We are Midwest connected, denominational, like church upbringing connection, like from way back in the day. And yet I feel like my really getting to know you has been via the interwebs over the last decade or so, through the Facebook world. And I think I was mentioning to Ambrosia before our conversation here, just that I don't know, like coming from that Midwest world, as I've observed Ambrosia show up in the world and pursue her passions and go on different adventures. And when I see her out on her paddleboard, it really helps me breathe. Like watching Ambrosia live, and I'm excited for at some point we're gonna connect in person and make memories at some point here. And maybe it's Baja, I don't know, it might end up being Baja at some point, that we'll adventure down there. But I just am grateful for who you are and how you're showing up in the world. And I'm curious to hear more about how you got to where you are and what's kind of led you to this place. So on that note, Yeah. How about my first question would just be, as you think back on your life, are there 2, 3 pivotal moments where you would say like, oh, these pieces really are why this is how I'm showing up, or like, and you can go as deep or as light as you want to go on that. But I'm just curious, like if you can identify some pivotal moments.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share. And it's great to connect with you for all the reasons you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are connected on the different layers of North Manchester, Church of the Brethren, Manchester College,
Yeah.
it's a little overwhelming to know which layers to share about because
Touche. Touche.
there's
Yep.
so many different aspects of my past and that have brought me to this point, and you could identify with a lot of those, the historical layers of those different cultures. However,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say a couple pivotal moments are really interesting that relate to the healing journey and also relevant to living the life of a massage therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Looking back growing up before massage school, before attending massage school, North Manchester being a small town in the Midwest, uh, the world we live in today with massage therapy integrated into our society more. I did not grow up having a town massage therapist. It wasn't a part of our really reality. So,
Mm-hmm.
as far as where I come from, I do find it interesting. There are pieces of my kind of nuclear family, and um, my dad is a big part of my feeling connected to my massage practice for a couple reasons, because he did have an acupuncturist friend that would travel
Mm-hmm.
in and out of our home when
Mm-hmm.
he was visiting. So I was introduced to a lot of kind of mind, body, spirit things through my dad's hobbies, basically.
Yeah.
He so that is something. Even though my real kind of foundation of my massage practice in my own journey began really with massage therapy school and the life that I lead now,
Yeah.
kind of dates back to me deciding to go to massage school instead of getting a master's degree and pursuing like mediation or the world of nonprofits would have. So that's a key moment in my life, deciding to go to massage school. And then I feel like everything just kind of unfolded into the life I live today. However, there's
Mm-hmm.
a couple little ways that I'm connected beyond that, and that has to do with my dad, Mike Brown. He
Mm-hmm.
we had this interesting experience of growing up in the studio, the shop, and our family lived behind the shop. So
Mm-hmm.
he would
Mm-hmm.
actually he would go to a chiropractor, and we were familiar with going to a chiropractor as far as that kind of physical adjustment, but he somehow just learned how to do it himself. And so he would I was kind of exposed to chiropractic work because our friends would just come through the store into the back, lay down on the living room, and my dad would crack their back and crack their neck, and just he kind of led
Wow.
led this impromptu
Yeah.
uh kind of casual style. Like, I don't know how he really learned it as well as he did, and for these people
Yeah.
to trust him, but he adjusted our neck. So it's such a tiny little thing about growing up. And then our friend Michael Polera, who would come and do acupuncture, so he was connected to the
Mm-hmm.
mind, body, spirit, and it was just how he lived. Like, as far as I did get exposed to chiropractic work and received that.
Mm-hmm.
And also growing up on the macrobiotic diet, that was
Mm-hmm.
my dad's hobby, and it became very relevant. The way, again, it's not like everyone always asks, oh, are you, do you live that way now? And I always kind
Yeah.
of feel a little like I'm disappointing them when I say, oh, actually, I grew up with so many rules that I
Ah.
kind of just, it rebelled in that mindset. I don't, oh, it discipline doesn't really come natural to me. So when it comes to diet, I kind of just am more gluttonous about not having rules.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh, there
Yeah.
we are. So
Yeah.
I kind of always feel like, oh yeah, no, I don't actually. So there is a
Uh-huh.
certain level of letting people down, telling them. But the way I was raised with those in that kind of environment, being raised by the macrobiotic diet and
Mhm.
being introduced to not just acupuncture, knowing it exists, ginger compresses. There's a lot of just how my dad had hobbies and chose to live his life that really connect me to um, the massage practice that I currently have, and also
Mhm.
to the other types of holistic health practitioners that I connect with that, that I guess maybe the trust that I have in those modalities. And even
Mhm.
if I always tell people, even if I don't like live the macrobiotic lifestyle or have a vegan diet, like it taught me how at a very young age to kind of, when you're raised on macrobiotic diet, you're asked, like, if you have a headache, you're asked, where is the headache in your head? Is it in the front of your head? Is it in the back of your head? So a lot of this, like, way that I was brought up is really getting in tune with how are things affecting you, whether it's, you ate a lot of sugar and look, not just that you're grumpy, but now you have a headache or you're sick, and
Mhm.
having that, like, almost like what you're saying, the counseling session, the sharing,
Mhm.
the knowledge of how does my body feel. And you just, a lot of that learning I kind of take for granted, but I know that that's a piece from my past. That's a big piece of why I ended up maybe feeling drawn to go out on a limb and go to massage school. It's all
Yeah.
packed in there. A lot of it has to do with that kind of upbringing. And then
Mhm.
another hobby of my, well, not just hobby, but
Yeah.
another big component of my dad's life was his Zen Buddhist practice that he was very, very dedicated and committed to.
Mhm.
So I'll just take
Mhm.
a deep breath.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know I'm getting chatty about it all.
No, that's
Uh,
good.
but
Mhm.
but there are a lot of one question like that about where I come from. My dad's
Mhm.
Zen practice, and I was kind of part. I was brought in into that Zen practice, not just observing him as a child,
Mhm.
um, you know, sitting on his meditation pillow every morning, every night, and being observing of his practice. But when I was in high school, I was brought into that and went to the Zen center with him, and was able to share that Zen uh, Buddhist practice with him. And that was very formative in high school and college to have that experience. In college, I was able to, not just it being a very special thing that I got to share with my dad.
Mhm.
But it really did in those years of, as you're getting to know yourself, to have access to that tool, to that realm, to that state of mind, to be exposed to that really did kind of lead me to some other pivotal moments, like going on my own
Mhm.
in college when I was studying abroad, um, in Spain in
Mhm.
2001, and this will tie into another pivotal moment of
Mhm.
just my spiritual path and how the massage practice in my life was a very once I started massage school, it did become a very meaningful and purposeful and kind of spiritual practice for myself. And it happened to be my profession, how I could support myself and get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So, but I think the reason that I never looked back, even when I had times of doubt, to pursue a massage career, because it has such meaning and purposefulness to my personal life. When you can be clued into your spiritual path and it's your job and you're helping people, and so you have a meaningful job but you're also getting paid, it's really hard times where I doubted, maybe I should, are you going to be able to do this forever, and have
Mhm.
the doubtfulness that I was doing the right thing, or maybe I should do something else and pursue something else.
Mhm.
Those thoughts were very fleeting because I always landed on how lucky I am, and it just feeds my soul so much. So
Mm.
another reason I
Yeah.
ended up in that place and had that kind of spiritual experience once I got to massage school is because of the meditation that I experienced with my dad and the meditation that I got introduced to when I was in Spain. And I got to go to the Plum Village, which is Thich Nhat Hanh's kind of place of residence that he lived in
Mm-hmm.
exile from France.
Mm-hmm.
So that experience of being able to walk walking meditation with Thich Nhat Hanh. He was not there the entire time I was there, but
Mm-hmm.
once he arrived on the like third day that I was there, and what was so interesting to me was he. I'm glad I had that experience. I mean, I'm glad I got to do a walking meditation with him and have his physical presence near. But what
Yeah.
was so powerful that I remember was that I had had such a profound experience at his place of Plum Village with every one of the Buddhist teachers or instructors or, just monks that were living there, that it was very uneventful when he showed up because everyone there really did embody everything that he was teaching. And I
Mm.
remember having that awareness of that. Like this guy is a celebrity of sorts, but it
Right.
didn't take away or make it greater that he was there, like the experience that I had up until the point of him getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of just reinforces. I had already done a few different like weekend meditations with my dad at the Chicago Zen Center, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a very strict. Like my dad was very. I don't know if it came easy, but he, compared to how I'm not very disciplined with things in general in my life, he
Uh-huh.
it seemed like it was very easy for him, just very disciplined, like with his eating,
Mm-hmm.
with his meditation. And I don't know that sometimes I don't want to take away. Maybe it wasn't easy for him, but
Mm-hmm.
he chose it. He did it, and so I remember after having the experience at Plum Village, going back to the Chicago Zen Center, and at the end when you can finally talk after like a 2 day something weekend type of retreat, the Buddhist, my dad's teacher there,
Mm-hmm.
he looked at me and said, "Oh, this is more like your experience at Plum Village, like the casual chit chatting, having lunch," like to suggest
Uh-huh.
that the Plum Village was like not really like Buddhism, like because it was so casual and like fun almost. So it was just
Uh-huh.
like a funny little like, yeah, here I am like going off on my own and finding a nice retreat at Plum Village. And it was just an example of doing my own, finding my way there was a great experience. I remember it, but another reason I remember that even more so is because it was lined up before I hiked the El Camino for the first time. So
Wow.
that was hiking the Camino was a very pivotal experience in my life at the time, and I love thinking about how I set out on the Camino immediately after that meditation at Plum Village.
Mm.
It kind of set the tone. It completely set the tone as I, when I started hiking the Camino, I don't know that I'd ever hiked before other than on little family vacations. So,
Right.
I mean, I hadn't lived out west yet. I had no idea. I wasn't an active person. I lived in Indiana my whole life. I'd traveled, and that was, um, I traveled a lot in high school and college, but I'd never had dabbled with the outdoor lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was really out of my element hiking the Camino. And
Mm-hmm.
that meditation experience that I had at Plum Village ahead of time really made it so that years to come after hiking that pilgrimage, I, went all the way to Finisterre and having that kind of solitude and that experience, it lived on.
Mm.
um, it still does.
Mm-hmm.
And so hiking the Camino is another like kind of landmark in my timeline. And I
Mm-hmm.
do somehow connect it to kind of where I'm at now with my massage practice, because there is a strong element that I'm attracted to, not the only one in the
Mm-hmm.
massage world, but that it's you can't do good body work unless you have um, at least a little awareness about meditation, shutting off your thinking mind. Like even you aren't successful with it at all times, but
Hmm.
I mean, I believe that there are probably people out there that do a very good job and have no idea what they're doing. However,
Uh-huh.
having that meditation practice to some degree, even if as a, child of a Zen Buddhist, I would maybe compare myself to my dad's practice and say, oh, I don't really have much of a meditation practice because I don't do sitting meditation every morning,
Hmm.
every night. But having that at least some sliver of a meaningful path in my life and identifying in massage school and the beginning of my massage practice that that was one element of a very successful massage practice, and what I felt like drawn to it because um, it allows for very good and meaningful body work to happen.
Hmm.
The best sessions are when you can completely just shut off your mind and dive in, and having that be well, I don't have a maybe regular sitting practice, but I do have this, time where I can really shut off my entire life. Whatever's going on with me doesn't matter and isn't welcome here. And to be there
Hmm.
for another person and dive into that kind of body work and giving someone a massage is so special. But being
Hmm.
present and being able to be present throughout the day and having that be a very important part of what you're getting paid to do, it's
Hmm.
just it's such a special opportunity.
Hmm.
And it really is a part of what I still love about the work that I still do,
Hmm.
almost coming up to close to 20 years later.
Wow.
So
Yeah. And I mean, even just the thought of 20 years of offering massage, like that is, I mean,
almost,
almost. I mean, it's like
almost.
but I mean, I remember them telling us early on, it was like in massage school, it was like, now most people last about 3 years because they don't like either, they don't have balance. I mean, I would imagine you have some some thoughts on that, but here's to you, like still being at it and loving it.
Still loving it. I mean,
Right.
I mean, why do it if you don't love it? There's so
Yeah.
many other jobs out there. There's so many other ways to make money.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think definitely when I do see my massage practice as it is my profession, and I don't
Yeah.
th- I say that in a way that like it really does. It's a it's a job,
Yeah.
and yet I think other professions, teachers that are passionate, if you're passionate with what you do, they have special elements. It's meaningful and purposeful, and they bring their own magic. It's magic to them.
Hmm.
It is just a
Hmm.
job, but it doesn't have to be a job in the healing arts to have it be magical and
Yeah.
spiritual even.
Yeah.
But with I feel like growing up, when I grew up, not having a massage job as a type of common job, this is what you could
Yeah.
do when you grow up,
Right.
it kind of is in the other camp of it's only seen in the healing arts. I think it's in transition now for
Hmm.
sure. It's very
Hmm.
much maybe a hop, skip, and a jump away from insurance companies, even offering covering massage. I know in the West Coast and in Hawaii, there are insurance companies that do cover
Hmm.
massage therapy. So it is going in that direction, but
Yeah.
I feel like in that transition time, and there's still places that there are, it is a type of profession that is still somewhat seen in the kind of holistic health
Yeah.
realm, and there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that, but
Totally.
I can go it doesn't really matter either. It's just it's a very special path, and I still love it, and
Hmm.
it serves it's I've all the time I always think about maybe I should do something else, and
Yeah.
always choosing it because of it's also makes it more special when you are always choosing it and like, yep, even though it's this or that, I still love it, and I
Mm.
don't nothing else really compares, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm approaching that maybe I'm approaching a kind of time in life where, oh, I'm getting into those years that I always wondered, what am I going to do when I'm
Mm-hmm.
that age? So I'm kind
Uh-huh.
of approaching this unknown territory.
Uh-huh.
And I'm that's okay. I'm approaching it, but in the meantime, I'm still just loving my massage practice and um, still feel very empowered by it. There's a lot of freedom
Mm-hmm.
that I is another kind of, I would say, benefit of the practice that I have, that really serves me and others around me to have a job that offers so much freedom.
Yeah.
But it's both. It's practical in my life, and it's also very spiritual and meaningful.
Mm, so great. And so as you're sharing, so I'm thinking back
Yeah,
to like the beginning, pieces that came out, but like a little bit of exposure to acupuncture, Zen Buddhism, watching your dad have like a pretty serious practice. He also did some chiropractic work on community members in the back, like on the dining table or something, or in the back on the floor of the dining room or something. Um, which would have been like wild, right? But seeing that, observing that, experiencing that that's so fascinating. Um, you did say, yeah, you talked about rules. His like, it was the macrobiotic, which I don't even know much about, but like that's
yeah.
a specific like way to approach food and what you're eating nutritionally.
Mhm,
I'm curious to hear a little bit more about that, but the rules piece, there were just a lot of rules.
mhm,
Um, as you're sharing about the massage piece is kind of, and like it's meaningful, purposeful. It's a job, and it also provides you just were sharing about freedom, um, that is also like exciting to you, that allows you some freedom
mhm,
and flexibility on, um, yeah, kind of where you choose to offer your gifts. I mean, it's like I mean, I could bring you here to Carlsbad. No, I could bring
mhm,
you to San Diego and book 5 massage. No, like
mhm.
help book out massages or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the amazing. Well, I don't know. I-
The freedom aspect of it,
yeah, say more about the freedom aspect.
it another interesting landmark, and cut me off if you had a
Oh,
different question in mind, but
no, yeah, yeah.
another big kind of experience that I went through early on in so I went to massage school in 2004 or 5, and I moved to Moab, Utah in 2005, right after massage school, immediately
Hmm.
after. And
Hmm.
so I want to say a year later is when my dad got diagnosed with his chronic lymphocytic leukemia.
Okay.
Early on, when I wasn't making very much at all as a young person, and
Yeah.
early on when I was barely starting out doing massage,
Yeah.
my first winter in Moab, I remember like the expense of going back for the holidays, the pressure to, have a job and you can take off and go home and see the family in the
Hmm.
holidays, living away from home. I actually got a job at a spa so that I would have a paycheck in the off season months of living in Moab, because back then, from like November until February, you didn't have very much income opportunities. Nobody in the town did,
Yeah.
especially working for myself. So some of the financial constraints of like, oh my gosh, working for myself, and where I was at being a young person after college and stuff. But
Hmm.
starting out doing this like kind of alternative profession, like working for myself. And
Hmm.
I kind of got that job intentionally so I would have an excuse. Oh, I can't go home for the holidays.
Yeah.
Because working for yourself, you don't necessarily have that excuse. You can always take off whenever
Yeah.
you need
Right.
to. But then I went home, and once my dad got that cancer diagnosis early on in my massage career,
Hmm.
having the freedom to be able to go home and be there for your family and not have to get time off of work, that
Hmm.
was, I mean, my second year in massage, living in Moab, of starting my massage practice and working for myself. So throughout my years, but having that experience and the timing of that happen early on in my massage career, being able to um, just go home when I needed to, and to be able to go home and be there, when my dad was in the hospital, and
Mhm.
and help in that way, to offer that support to the family. I
Yeah.
mean, at that time, it was such a gift to myself and to everybody,
Yeah.
and I really valued that aspect, even when sometimes that freedom was a burden. It never felt like a burden. It would have been much worse to not have that freedom to
Yeah.
go home when needed. And so
Yeah.
I think all along, ever since that experience, and then when I guess my dad lived 6 or 7 years pretty healthy and
Yeah.
comfortable with
Yeah.
cancer,
Yep.
but being able to go home when he was kind of declining, and during that decline, I mean, that was years ago now, but in how it lined up with my massage practice, really, really it was a key moment in my life, no matter, for all of our lives when something like that happens. Um,
Hmm.
but for me personally, like in my massage practice, it definitely didn't make me anytime soon want to go get a more traditional job as far as that
Right.
goes. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's so many other things, right, about, talking about the value of massage and the
Yeah.
healing arts, and,
Yeah.
things like that. But the value of that massage practice and what it has given me in my life, that's another big key moment, was being able to go home during that time, which I know you understand as well how
Yeah. Yeah.
valuable that is. So,
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Really such a gift.
mhm,
Such a gift to that. Yeah. Entrepreneur, doing your own thing, running your own biz. Definitely
mhm.
has, but provides way more flexibility. As you're sharing about the massage, like how have you taken care of yourself? Like what have
Oh
been
yeah.
like like what's been important to you as you think
Mhm.
about almost 20 years of offering massage, like as yeah, what has been key to you staying healthy and strong and well?
Well, number one, I don't have kids,
Okay.
which ties into being able to get a lot of sleep. And
Okay.
so I don't say that with too much smirk. I really,
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
able to sleep and being able to sleep in and
Yeah.
get a lot of sleep is key. It's
Uh-huh.
key. And it always has
Uh-huh.
been. I've always recognized, like, I would not be able to do this. This is a big sacrifice if you
Yeah.
have kids. So,
Yeah.
number one, that's a big part of it. And also that ties into having the time when I'm not doing massage. And I would say, just, just as a side note too, like with my massage business, the last few years are a little different. However,
Mm.
up until the pandemic, I would say every year that I've done massage, have only done more and more and more of it. Like I haven't taken more days off. I haven't tapered off. Like,
Yeah.
so I would say, I think early on, Epsom salts were a huge, huge thing that I got introduced to from a chiropractor that
Hmm.
I worked with when I was in massage school. And so he, I actually got treated by him. So I first learned about it when he was telling me for my adjustments that I needed when I had like a rib out of place.
Yeah.
We learn so much from our injuries, our personal injuries as body workers. Those are also very specific landmarks in our massage journey. How we can help people. We learn so much from having a rib go out of place, and
Hmm.
having so those are us also interesting kind of pieces of a massage practice, is the injuries that we've experienced and the healing that goes along with it. So
Hmm.
Epsom salts from the very, very beginning. I remember the very, very first few years of doing massage, there was a time I would go back to my house and soak in Epsom salts in between my massage sessions, because I was so concerned about hurting my hands or,
Yeah.
and I just was so diligent about the self-care any way
Yeah.
I could. And
Yeah.
I would actually soak in between sessions Epsom salt baths. I still, do a lot of Epsom salt soaking. Sometimes if I wake up stiff, I'll do it in the morning. And I tell my clients to not be shy to, if you can wake up early, if you wake up in pain, wake up a
Mhm.
little earlier and take a bath before you go to work. And if you can, take it before going to bed. But some
Wow.
people are into
Yeah.
baths, some people aren't. And
Yeah.
if there's somebody that is not into a bath, I still encourage them, like, look, even 10 minutes, even if you can do it for 10 minutes, it is subtle. It is very subtle, but it is going to help. So
Mm.
that's one thing that's very simple. And
Hmm.
the simple things I like because, the home remedies. So
Hmm.
ginger compress, that's another one that has been a home remedy. I personally, for self-care, I do a lot of like ginger tea and drink
Hmm.
ginger tea, but I do at least tell people that was something from my just a home remedy from my upbringing that seems to really help reduce inflammation or aches and pains on a back. I
Hmm.
also had experience with a friend who was pregnant when she was having contractions, waiting around till have the baby, the very last few days waiting around to have the baby, and I would made a ginger compress for her. So
Hmm.
that's like just something I grew up with that I believe in. That's very simple, accessible, cheap.
Yeah.
You can do it anytime.
Hmm.
And then I would say that the time outdoors. I mean, all the stuff, the playing, the stuff that I live in. I've lived in Moab and Telluride, and now Telluride and Maui. It's just all that fun stuff. The hiking, the outdoor time, connecting with. There's special places. Like it's ridiculous, right? But even when I would go back to Indiana and be with my dad during that time, where I didn't have those outdoors, like that time outdoor, wherever you are in between sessions or after a massage, is so critical for being able to recharge the battery and also just to release the energy. And it just emotionally, being able to, all the things that life throws at us. If I'm going through something that's a physical challenge, I can still do massage pretty well. If I have an emotional thing going on, then, the physical stuff, that's good for the Epsom salts. We have hot springs nearby, so I'm super spoiled. I go to the hot springs all the time.
Yeah.
Sleeping, all that's really, really good for just maintaining physical health. Yoga, obviously, I would love to do it more than I do, but I've
Hmm.
been really drawn to like hot yoga and yin yoga, and in Telluride we have Kayut yoga. It's amazing, but
Hmm.
I emotionally, I feel like the outdoors, I have very seldom, no matter what the worst thing I'm going through that I'm challenged by emotionally, can always rely on, whether it's the mountains, the ocean, the desert, to lift up my spirits. It's just completely reliable source of turning things around. And
Hmm.
it never fails me ever.
Hmm.
So having
Hmm.
those outlets, and even in times when I was stuck back in Indiana after living in places like Moab, and I would journey when I would do a massage, back in Indiana for my dad when he was sick or other people. I mean,
Yeah.
I loved those places. They lived on inside me. And I would just like pick out, okay, during this massage, I'm going to pretend I'm at Mill Creek. And I would just try so hard to memorize every little part of the trail, and I'd go back there in my mind. And
Hmm.
just loving where you are, wherever it is, and
Hmm.
time outside is like key, key to my happiness, key to being physical. I think there's a psychological element too of
Hmm.
knowing that, like, it's it's so interesting. Like, it's obvious that massage is physical, but I always have been aware of, like, look who's coming to me, who's so bent out of shape. It's not all the body workers, it is the people working at a computer. And so there's not, I think there's a lot of other jobs out there that are
Hmm.
more acceptable jobs, accepted by society, that are more traditional. And I don't necessarily buy into it that, massage is harder on the body than sitting at a computer. There's so many other jobs that really, really, really can harm you a lot worse. And I know
Hmm.
because I work with those people who are suffering from either old injuries or just job related aches and pains. And so
Yeah.
I think like kind of taking a little bit of that with a grain of salt and like trusting that moving with, I really love just I think listening to your body is key with self-care. There's all those
Hmm.
things that I love doing when I'm not doing massage, and I have a list of other things that I know I could do at a given moment's notice that would make me
Totally.
even more healthy and last even longer. I mean, I abuse
Hmm.
my body more than I probably should. I know what I could do to do better and take care of myself better.
Hmm.
However, it is a key thing to know that just doing massage, listening to your body, what's hurting, better body mechanics. So going in, diving into Thai massage and learning Thai massage has really, really been something in the past decade that has very much helped me take care of myself because uh, you're moving your whole body when you do it. I would love to do more Thai massage than I do. I still do a
Hmm.
lot of table massage, but what I realized was instead of like forcing all my clients to now do Thai massage, I realized what I love about practicing and learning Thai massage is how I'm moving my whole body. I could work on somebody's neck, but it's coming from my whole body. I can use my knees. I can use. So I've just been it really changed how I do my table massage.
Hmm.
I'll put my leg up on the table and be stretching. Like you want to feel good when you're giving somebody a massage, and that's okay. And learning Thai massage really helped me. It was, like kind of reprogram, relearn, like almost like learning a new language. Like it really has helped me with my body mechanics when I give a massage. It's also
Hmm.
really, really helped me think about how I work on somebody's whole body instead of just digging into their one knot that's hurting them. So it
Yeah.
also helps me therapeutically think about how I can help my client, even if they're not getting a Thai massage. It's really redesigned how I work with people in my massage practice.
Yeah. Yeah, say more about that. So for people who may be listening who've never received a massage, like what
Mm-hmm.
would uh, yeah, maybe even just like a couple tips for like
Yeah.
somebody who's brand new to the massage world about what that experience might be like, recommendations you might suggest they consider when they're like exploring finding a massage therapist around. Because I do
Yeah.
think as you're talking through that, it's like boy, I mean, how often it's like, oh, but this is where it's hurting. Ambrosia
Mm-hmm.
right here. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
but your hip, I'm telling you, your hips are kind of off right now. No, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so anyway, I'm just curious what you might offer to people who maybe have wanted to get a massage, just haven't yet. And then like any like, yeah, additional thoughts yeah, tell us more about that reality
Um,
of it could be here, but it's also like wanting to show up for the whole body versus just
yeah,
the tight
yeah.
spot.
Yeah, well, it's very easy to, you know, want. I myself, if I have a sore area, a big knot in my shoulder, I don't please just ignore my legs when I'm getting a massage. Just spend the entire time on that one area. Um,
Hmm.
but it depends on how much when you book a massage, definitely it's like you need to trust yourself. If something doesn't feel right with it might take a long time to find a good massage therapist.
Hmm.
You never should feel like you have to go back to someone. And if you feel like, it's good to try. You'll know when you find the right person. You'll just automatically want to go back to that person. But it may
Hmm.
take, you have to be patient finding someone who does good work. One
Hmm.
way is, to ask, there's online reviews, obviously. Ask around. So finding someone who does good work, it just takes time. And knowing that, it takes time to find a good person, and there are ways to try to find a good person. You can go online, you can read reviews. If you know like a chiropractor, or you have a friend who goes to a chiropractor, you can ask them for a referral. Ask your
Mhm.
friends, go to a health food store, ask them. Word of mouth. Word of
Yeah.
mouth travels. So it's up to you to like explore your options. Who is good in your area? It is good to go to someone that's not too far away because you don't want to have to drive too far back and forth. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
elements finding someone, knowing that it takes a long time to find somebody, maybe it gives you a certain sense of expectation. And if you go to somebody and it doesn't feel quite right, then trust your instinct and try somebody else. And then as far as knowing to book more time will also help.
Mhm.
One exception to working the whole body is if you're on a time frame and you only have 60 minutes with somebody. Um, this is basic stuff, but yeah, if someone isn't going to massages regularly, this basic stuff can help have a certain expectation of what to expect. If you book 60 minutes with someone, even if they're really good, they may not, they may only be able to work on that knot in a few areas, and you're a little more limited with what you can do. If you have 90 minutes or 2 hours, now all
Mhm.
of a sudden we're talking, we can really, it takes about 30 minutes for the body, for most people, takes
Mhm.
around 30 minutes for the natural relaxation for you to all of a sudden start relaxing. It takes that long. So if you have a 60-minute massage, you're really only getting like 30 minutes of massage time in that relaxed state. So that
Mm.
intro of a 30, knowing that that's just what happens. You sit down on a massage table, you start on a Thai massage, you're not on a massage table, you're on the ground. If it's a
Mhm.
traditional Thai massage, you're wearing your clothes. So that's one difference with the Thai massage. Another difference that's kind of basic, but it is significant because some people are not comfortable being touched. They don't want to have that intimacy, or they don't want their, to be unclothed on a massage table. And for some people who may still have some pain and want some therapeutic body work, Thai massage is really beneficial for that person, just because you can feel comfortable getting work done through the clothing,
Mhm.
and still try to have some real therapeutic body work going on, relieve your pain. Low Thai massage is really good for low back pain, especially. So, for
Mhm.
example, if someone, if you have like a sore hip or a sore shoulder, it's really good to know that if you find somebody good, um, yeah, you'll get into those areas, the right pressure. Everyone's different with the pressure, in a way that you feel somewhat satisfied. Like, oh, yeah, you got in there, you know
Mhm.
exactly where the pain is coming from.
Mhm.
It's almost no matter how much pressure you're using, I feel like if someone's able to get to the source of the pain that you're experiencing, whether that's digging in really deep to a knot behind your shoulder,
Mhm.
or if it's like a very gentle touch where you're breathing, but you can still sense, yep, there's that pain. If you can get in and feel like someone is working and touching on the pain that you're experiencing in your life, then
Mhm.
that's kind of a successful mission. It's beginning to be a therapeutic experience, and then you can start releasing it. So, from my studies in Thailand,
Yeah.
um, it really helps address working. You look at working on that shoulder, you start with the feet, you're stretching the hips a lot, and you may feel, oh, wow, when you stretch my hip, I feel how that's related to the opposite shoulder. So what you have the tension that's being released when the person's stretching you, but you
Mhm.
yourself feel how everything is connected. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of different patterns. It's not just like, that's what's so wild about body work, is there's so, indefinite number of energy lines flowing through the body. And
Mhm.
once you start getting that feedback from your clients that when you work on the arch of my foot, I can feel it in that pain that I'm having in my mid back. Reflexology is very similar, right? The
Mhm.
basically map to the whole body. You can push on these different spots in the feet, or just massage the feet in general, and you can feel a kind of sensation in your neck or your hip that's been hurting or somewhere else in your body. So you feel how it's
Mm-hmm.
all connected. And your job when you're receiving a massage, and some people automatically think, oh, it's harder for somebody who's a massage therapist to work on a bigger person than a smaller person. But really, the other component that I've learned is how open someone is to receiving. And that could be if someone's a really big person or a really small
Mm-hmm.
person. Someone can be really tiny and just be closed off energetically, and it can be actually harder to work on that person, even though physically it should be like you could lift them up like they're a feather and do whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
physically can, a lot of the work that's done in a massage session is up to how open um, to receiving the work the client is. Again,
Wow.
this is like very basic stuff,
Yeah.
but it's also talking to someone who hasn't received much body work is
Yeah.
these are the basics that I've observed.
Well, that's
And
such a
then
beautiful reminder as well, though. I mean, just the openness piece, because yeah, I mean, right? But I sometimes it's like I go to a therapist and I'm like, all right, help me fix this sort of thing. You go to a massage therapist, you're like, all right, help me release this. And it's like, I think that's just a good reminder as to that Aaron goes to therapy and Aaron's going to make the changes, when we go find a massage therapist, yeah, how open are we to being in that receive mode and really because it is such I love that reminder. And I know that's, yeah, maybe basic, but I'm like,
Mhm.
that's such a good reminder to go
another
in with that openness.
yeah,
Yeah.
another little tidbit, since a lot of people don't even get massage regularly, so
Yeah.
why would you ever know anything about Thai massage?
Yeah.
And another aspect that's different about Thai massage, but is very significant, is it's very grounding work because you are on the ground. It's very, very
Mm,
basic. But the idea of, when you're a kid, when you're a child, and if you have kids around or you have children around, and you're reminded of how often you're just like flopping yourself on the ground, or the floor is so much closer. You're just like rolling around on the ground all the time, all day long,
mm-hmm,
basically,
mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and as adults, we lose that. And so the idea of just, even if you don't go get a Thai massage, but if um, you realizing simple things you can do to ground yourself or to release energy or to feel better, even if you don't like go take a nap or go to a
Yeah.
whole yoga class, you can just lay on the floor, lay on the ground, and do some breathing, and you can kind of let go of a lot of stuff emotionally,
Mm,
physically, and that's just you doing it. So if you are laying on the ground on a comfortable padded mat, just to give a little cushion, and
mm-hmm,
someone's moving you and stretching you, and there's some massage components to it, but it's hard to compare it to massage because you're not getting the oil on the skin, and there's a little bit more movement, and stretching going on is more of the
mm-hmm,
emphasis. And yet you can have a very big, like, therapeutic shift in your body and in your mind. Sometimes you may feel a little more energy after a massage or after Thai massage than feeling that, like, oh, I feel really heavy and groggy and out of it
mm-hmm,
after a table massage. But that's just another basic, very fundamentally something that's different about a Thai massage, is that
mm-hmm,
just by laying on the ground, not being elevated and on a table that's off the ground, just by laying on a mat on the ground and having someone work with you on in that way, you just like become one with the ground. You get very grounded. So it's very grounding type of body work
mm.
for that reason.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just by, and that's like, oh yeah, giving yourself permission to ground yourself throughout the day. It doesn't cost
Mm-hmm,
any money. You can do it yourself. Um,
mm-hmm,
put your
mm-hmm.
legs up on the couch or a chair, and
Yeah.
but valuing it in the same way as gifting yourself and going to a yoga class. I think
Mm-hmm,
there are these key things that you can integrate into your life that are free, that are right there, that really are therapeutic and beneficial.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Huge
Uh, uh,
reminders.
what one other thought while we're on the subject of talking
Yeah.
about the actual massage,
Yeah.
something that I've also observed that we don't really that I'm fascinated by, but I feel like we're just barely beginning to talk about things like emotional pain and in society, and uh, it's kind of, now we're finally like, okay, accepted massage, chiropractic. It's like accepted that there's therapeutic components, whether we do it or not. But people pretty much are on board, like see the value,
Hmm.
understand that there's a therapeutic value to it. Doctors too. There's a lot
Hmm.
more integrative, holistic health centers out there, doctors working and recommending these things. Um, I feel like we're starting to get there also. Maybe if you're in a community where you're in the counseling world, probably,
Hmm.
obviously,
Hmm.
that's where you talk about it more. But
Hmm.
a couple specific things that I've experienced in massage and working with people that have to do with emotional
Yeah.
pain. That's
Yeah.
very like, it touches on how the energy lines that flow through our body, it sounds like it's like invisible to us. It's like, what are you talking about? What
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
this? And
Yeah.
I feel like with Thai massage, it's interesting because that everything is designed based on energy lines. Similar to Eastern medicine, Chinese energy lines are different than the Thai massage therapy lines, but
Hmm.
it's basically similar framework. And when I went to Thailand, it wasn't until then that I understood some of these fundamental differences that we may kind of just feel we don't necessarily put our finger on, like, well, why is Eastern medicine so different than Western? And one little piece of that that I learned about at my Thai massage school is that it goes against Buddhist values and traditions to dissect a human body after death. And so I feel like that really encompasses a lot of these differences that we can see between the two systems of Eastern medicine and Western medicine. If that goes against your belief system and your traditions, and how do you get to know the body? How do you get to know about disease? So something in our culture, like talking, even saying the word energy lines, is like, well, what are you talking about? Like, that's not even accepted. Like, it's invisible. It's not like a real thing.
Hmm.
And so I find that really hit home to me about why, well, how would you go about learning about wellness and disease with the human body if that was not a way of learning about it, surgery and disease and dissecting the
Hmm.
body to learn about it. Like, and so it really is profound. I think that acupuncture and all of these Eastern forms of medicine that have been around for so long,
Hmm.
it's even more profound when you really think about how they came about and how they all are, whether they're different from each other. The similarity is that they're learning and affecting the body, trying to promote wellness, prevent disease, and heal disease too
Hmm.
through energy. And it's interesting. So
Hmm.
emotional pain, early on in my massage career, when I one of the first massages I got, and it was introduced to me in that massage, was the awareness around a knot that can form behind your left shoulder. We all have felt it. We all have had it. And a lot of people, it's from working on the computer. There's a physical reason for it. And yet,
Hmm.
at times of loss and at times of letting go, at times of having an emotional conflict in your life that you can't resolve, there's something different about a left knot shoulder, a shoulder knot on the left side.
Hmm.
Um, it's right behind the heart. And having that like introduced to me early on in my massage career, um, it's not something I read about. It was just something that was brought to my attention. And
Hmm.
the massage therapist said, you're going to have to learn to let go. And this was during the time that my dad was sick. And I really like listened to her about, wow, this knot is emotional pain. It wasn't described in the time, but her saying you're going to have to learn to let go. Well, I can't read a book. Maybe now I could. At the time, it wasn't like, oh, read this book and you'll learn how to let go. It was like, it's up to me. No one
Hmm.
else can tell me how.
Right.
It's a mystery. It's part of the healing process of how how do you let go? I don't know how to do that, but
Yeah.
continuing to check in with the pain, the physical pain in that left shoulder knot, um, was kind of that dialogue going on. There's like it's like kind of for me, it's such a simple way of encompassing the mind, body, spirit. And I feel like emotional pain is at the heart of a lot of how do you distinguish if there's usually a physical component, but sometimes you get to check in with a certain pain in your body. And I get to check in with a lot of different people's pains in their body and get
Mm-hmm.
them to check in. Hey, and I usually kind of say, hey, this not, maybe there's a physical thing going on. Maybe you were moving and you lifted something, and there could be a physical reason that there
Mm-hmm.
is this not here. But I'm just
Mm-hmm.
curious, are you going through an emotional experience? Have you experienced any loss? I mean, it depending on the person and how open they are, it might
Yeah.
be a very basic question. Like, and sometimes if I'm not asking them personally, I just introduce the concept if I sense that it is possibly emotional pain. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not. And sometimes it's unknown, but it doesn't hurt to ask the person to introduce the concept that that what we are experiencing and not being able to let go and experiencing loss really can show up in this very specific way. And it could be very vague and different, right? If you,
Yeah.
it could be in your hip, it could be, it's very specific for, but this one, not behind your shoulder, it's behind the heart. And over the years, and because it was introduced to me early on in my massage career, then I had all these years to ask people about it. And sometimes it was the intuition level of what happens in a bodywork session and
Mm-hmm.
getting the feedback over time. That's kind of this really interesting component to the work that we do as bodyworks, but also as a human to just learn about and continue to ask like the question, is this possibly from some type of um, emotional issue that's not quite resolved, and it's trying in my body trying to tell me something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just another component that's hard to kind of pick apart and identify and put words to, but something
Yeah.
that is very real also in the experience of doing massage.
Yeah. Yeah. The layers, right? I mean,
Hmm.
as you're talking through that, it's like, I mean, I remember my hips during Sarah and I's honeymoon. We would like get comfortable in India, and then we would be getting ready to go to the next country. And I would like for the 3 days before we would leave, like my hips would just hurt horribly. And then at the end of every country, I literally had this like pain, like not fun pain in my hips, and it was like I was so nervous because I finally got comfy. I finally got comfy in India, and then it was like, oh, now I got to go like get used to this next other world, or whatever. And for me, my body's always talking to me. My emotions are always talking to me through my body.
Hmm.
Um, so I totally resonate with what you're saying there, where it's like, and even during my mom's journey with cancer, like I mean, we were talking a lot about, well, where'd this come from? And what, like, what's this about? And um, she did her absolute best, like to let go and to clear stuff, but it's like whoosh. And this is how her path continued on, right? So anyway, but it is definitely that's a deep dive. Ambrosia, that's good stuff. That's a good stuff, but always worth asking, right? Always like it's
Hmm.
like there's a song that I like. It says the body talks and meditation helps, just that it's like yeah, just paying attention, right? When the body's talking, it's like, all right, what's under there? Is there something going on under there? Um, so good. I love hearing about your journey and the massage world and the Plum Village and the like Midwest reality. and going back and being able to offer those gifts to family and having some freedom to do that. As you're thinking about, like, I'm curious, with our Church of the Brethren kind of similar background as well, like how well the internet, the TV, the new, I don't really watch a lot of TV, but like the internet, it's easy to get a lot of like world downloads these days on like things going on in the world. Sometimes I actually choose to set some pretty firm boundaries for myself about when I can listen, or when I can listen to like things going on around the world, because otherwise energetically I just don't have any energy for the day. Sort of like, I mean, it just depletes me very, very rapidly. I guess I'm just curious to know how you, because I know you have a heart for the world, and you said nonprofits earlier on, like what path to choose, and this, like as you were sorting through, it's like I'm in the process of working on a website for a foundation nonprofit that I'm working with, and it's like how to show up in this world. Yeah, how do you keep saying yes to love, to joy, to gratitude, and also show up and be aware of all of the stuff that's going on in the world that's not fun to look at, and it's really devastating. I guess I'm just curious, you're like, how do you balance this, like the world issues? Let me just give an example. When I was in teaching high school, I would I was constantly like, hey, I would bring like a video of things going on in India, or I'd bring an article, BBC article, to my like high school classroom, and we would like read the article, discuss it, and it was always just such a trip for me to like, like, because I had some students just tell me, they're like, Aaron, Mr. Lehman, just go to India, like go to India, stop trying to get us to care about India. Like, I'm like a teenager, I'm struggling with my own life, my parents are going through this, and you're telling me to care about India. And but that just reminds me of like kind of my upbringing, because I'm like, I was in the suburbs, middle class household in Arizona, and I was scooting along, but then I was learning about things going on in the world at a very young age, being in the Church of the Brethren, and it was like a very intense experience for me, and I'm still processing at 41 how to do it. Like, how do I like show up for and share my gifts and my passions, and also be aware of all these other realities and painful things going on in the world, and how do I show up in those worlds as well? So anyway, I'm just curious, that was a long-winded intro question, but I'm just like, obviously it's a heavy one for me, as I'm like continuously sorting through how to be in the world, and to care for the world and care for others.
Yeah, going back to growing up in the Church of the Brethren, and being studying peace studies, caring so much about world peace, and always, that was such a big part of growing up, of really, really, really like trying to make a difference all the time. And I think, some people talk about, you hear all the time about being raised in the Catholic Church and Catholic guilt. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I would kind of say, because I don't want, when I talked to the person that was a peace studies student at Manchester College,
Uh-huh.
compared to like that college student that, I did civil disobedience in Vieques, Puerto
Yeah,
Rico,
yeah.
and tried to put it on my resume to get a job leaving college.
Uh-huh.
Like I was
Uh-huh.
very, very, very very optimistic to change the world and really cared.
Yeah.
And if I were to talk to that person, I feel like that person, there is a part of myself that has a lot of brethren guilt and how I live my life, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like once I moved to Moab and started my massage career, like I remember getting to a point I still committed to volunteering to some level, like teaching English to people who didn't speak English. And I was still really passionate about, like, I remember showing up in Moab to the women's type of women's shelter nonprofit and like
Hmm.
organizing like a massage day for everybody. I just was like, there was that part of me that wanted to live on in the world. And there came a point where I got so like like I started really diving into learning to climb and the outdoor world and like just like really like loving life and in this active lifestyle and like
Yeah.
loving and I there was that part of me that was in conflict, like, wow, I'm really selfish. Like it felt selfish. I had a lot of that brethren guilt. Like I wasn't doing enough. I'm not doing anything. I'm not at
Hmm.
all connected. And I think I beat myself up a lot for what I wasn't doing that I did in college, that I was like brought up to think this is how you change the world.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of letting go of like, just live your life and have fun. And there is a lot of like back and forth. And
Yeah. Yeah.
living in Moab and Telluride, like I'm always inspired by not just my town and the people that are doing the work. And I
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, I'm not doing anything anymore. I'm just being selfish and having fun and loving my life. And
Right.
there are
Right.
times where that's a huge, it really just by living, like bringing it back to yourself and like
Hmm.
not having to, there are times where that's a big accomplishment to go through hardships in life and still love life and still want to have that drive to get out there and go for a hike. It is
Hmm.
very self-serving, it feels, but there is also a certain fundamental level of inner peace and what that takes to be able to gift yourself to say that. Actually, I remember Thich Nhat Hanh, actually it was always the hardest one: peace in oneself, peace in the world. And it really
Yeah.
like felt selfish to me at a this is going back
Way
many
back. Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
like, wait, but what do you mean? Like it felt too self-centered, and it felt like
Hmm.
a very like, and it is, I mean, on some levels. However, to value your own individual life and to be humbled, like
Hmm.
there's a certain level of like, okay, you can only, it's not, on the one hand you could view it as like giving up and not doing enough. I'm not joining in the marches, and I'm not really all that, I'm not really doing very much for these, like, I believe I'm, my heart's with them, I want
Yeah.
these things to happen, and what am I doing? Maybe I'm
Hmm.
not doing enough. And then there's another piece of when you witness other people that don't have inner peace and continuing to try to just take care of yourself only is a
Hmm.
huge accomplishment. Just
Hmm.
look, if everybody was able to do that, obviously there's always the person being picked on that you have to always stand up for.
Hmm.
You always have to be ready to speak up for those that just are at a disadvantage. And there's also the time where you have to be humbled, even if I am a, was brought up in middle class and there shouldn't be any reason, but there are times where you have to be humbled to let other people help you too, and to
Hmm.
say, wow, I really need help. So there, I
Hmm.
think it's a big issue, that question. I think there are times where I'm I'm always, my heart's still always in it and wants to do more. I think the
Hmm.
more that the things that I do, like the people that I know and that I knew when I lived in Moab that were in the rock climbing community, they were getting ready to have Telluride Mountain Film Festival here in Telluride.
Hmm.
People that really live their life to the fullest, that are out there in nature, there's they're always the ones that are in Nepal trying to help communities that are
Hmm.
there, like taking a hit without very many resources. And so on one level it feels like a selfish, self-serving lifestyle that the former Ambrosia from Peace Days would be kind of
Yeah.
disappointed in, because I'm really not doing much. I'm living
Hmm.
comfortably, but it's a very complex question. There's so many layers to it.
Totally.
And I feel like there's still time. So I think there
Mm-hmm.
is a time and place to go rally in the streets and be involved. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's also meaningful to one way, even though it's just me and my little life and my massage practice. One thing that I have always resonated with that I love about the work I do is that yes, people do pay me for massages. So how
Mm-hmm.
accessible to everybody is that service? But
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, so I acknowledge that aspect of who I work on and where I live between Moab, Telluride. And yet I never know, like to be able to open up your doors and to connect in the way that you connect in such an intimate way with
Mm-hmm.
so many different people, strangers, people you don't even know if you're going to see again. You have no idea who this person is that you're working on, and you don't know what they do for a living. You don't know anything about their life. And to be able to be in that role to connect and in a meaningful way, in an intimate way, to experience those moments with so many different people. It kind of does, in a way, add up after almost now, like I guess 19 years of doing that work day in and day out, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, seeing all the different people that you see and being a positive part of their day or month or year.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
even I feel like there's something to it where yeah, that's not changing the world at all, but there is something that being able to connect with all sorts of different people and value all of them.
Yeah.
And there's something significant about how often in life do we choose what we do in our day. And so
Yeah.
we're very limited with the types of people we can get to know or talk to, but we're even more limited with people that we can really sit with in a meaningful way where we're not talking about what do you do for a job. So I do feel like there is something very special about just my massage practice that's
Yeah.
meaningful to me, that
Yeah.
does have to do with like, yeah, we're divided. Like there's so many problems. And yet I
Yeah.
do find meaning in this simple little life that I have of connecting with just random people and
Yeah.
experiencing a true, meaningful, positive connection on a human level, not even knowing anything about what their beliefs are. So I feel like
Yeah.
the more that we can come together and do fun things, that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to experience a tiny little bit of that, but I always want to do more. And I do, when I just go set out on my life and it's pretty like self-serving, like, oh, I'm going to go for a hike and feel
Mm-hmm.
good and love
Mm-hmm.
life. And that's what, to me, like, we don't know how much time we have. And so after
Mm-hmm.
my dad passed, like, okay, now I'm got my massage practice rolling for me. Now I've kind of made one of my goals. It's sustainable financially to live this life I love. The next
Yeah.
thing for me was I want to travel. And I think even if I'm not traveling with a nonprofit doing good work,
Mm-hmm.
by connecting with people in other parts of the world, making friends
Yeah.
everywhere I go. I mean, it's fun. I don't feel like I'm saving the world. I'm just having a fun time.
Yeah.
It's meaningful though, and it makes me want to learn more. Going
Yeah.
going on a trip to Vietnam. I
Yeah.
mean, even though like just think historically, like the impact of making friends
Yeah.
going as a tourist to Vietnam and
Mm-hmm.
and being invited there and welcomed there and being a tourist. And there's nothing about that trip that was I'm saving the world or making this a better place. But
Yeah.
having an experience there in that country with the history that we have was very significant, and was
Mm-hmm.
underlying to all the friends we made and all the interactions we had. And
Mm-hmm.
you take that away too. There's a lot of positive. There's so much positive going on. And when you when you do kind of sign up for like nature conservancy, and you learn about, like we have in the West publication High Country News, when you actually put the time into learning about um, what actually is going on with the climate and in your neighborhood, there's a lot of people trying to do really, really, really good things. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as there are even a small number of people, why wouldn't you want to be part of at least learning what other people are doing, even if you aren't doing it yourself? And
Mm-hmm.
so it just seems like really, if anything, like I am so motivated the more I connect with nature, even if it's this self-serving fun trips and
Mm-hmm.
hiking and biking and climbing and getting out in the ocean. It makes you really care about the environment. And as long as there's people trying to, you know, reduce plastics, you want to be a part of that. And so no matter how
Yeah.
small it is, it's it's still important to at least want to keep living and
Mm-hmm.
keep learning about what people are doing, because
Yeah.
there's always people who are trying to make this place a better place, and
Mm-hmm.
you get to pick which team are you going to be on, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's
Totally.
an attitude change. It comes natural. For me, I'm lucky because I'm just in general a happy person, want to be a happy
Yeah.
person. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like there's really not a whole lot going on
Yeah. Yeah.
when it comes to that.
No.
But
Oh, I'm so grateful for you diving in with me on that because I just, yeah, I was curious to know how you process through. And like, and as I observe you, I observe, I mean, when I think about some of the self-care things, I mean, they always talk about like put the oxygen mask on for yourself before you then help the person next to you, right? When you're in the airplane or whatever. And there's true, I mean, to me, that does make a lot of sense, you know, and one of the pieces, I mean, I feel like you going on a hike or me walking and talking to a friend or you know what I mean? Like these self-care habits then allow you, right, to then have the energy to then show up for these clients, which then I know 99 out of 100, you know, like there's probably one disgruntled person out of 100 every once in a while. No, I'm imagining, but like the ripple from them receiving a massage from you is legit, is like amazing. Like I just know that. I just know that like they're walking differently. They're interacting with their friend differently. Maybe they touched their child's foot that night, you know, like, and they haven't done that in 2 weeks, you know, like it's those little, so, um, but I appreciate you being real with me because I was curious, like, because I have some of that Church of the Brethren guilt and not enoughness is one of the stories that I'm kind of constantly having conversation with. And I've been really seeking to let go of that story because we're all so different and we all have so many different gifts. And so I'm like, dude, what you're given is magic. And, you know, and you're helping me breathe deep, Ambrosia. You know, like, I mean, you're helping all these clients. I haven't even gotten a massage from you yet, you know, and I'm already breathing deeper knowing who you are, you know, so it's like, can't even imagine getting a Thai massage from you. And I'm gonna be like, whoo. So anyway, like I think it's just acknowledging all of these different giftings, right? And also the news really makes it feel doomsdayish when like the majority of humans are really quite kind and quite incredible and really doing their best each day to like show up and not just help themselves and their families, but also help their communities. So anyway,
and I think
what
it's
else?
important, those random acts of kindness. If you mentally are in a place where you are looking and you are ready to help,
Mhm.
believe me, people, you're not going to go very far. You're not going to go a couple blocks down
Yeah,
the street before you see someone who needs help. And
yeah.
I think that's another way of like, it's just there's something about it of being very aware of wanting to be that person, and you will be given maybe too many opportunities, and it looks very differently than the ways we grew up in the Church of the Brethren of like how to change the world and how to, we want world peace. And I
Mhm.
think there are ways that we live it out by
Mhm.
having that upbringing, and it comes through you in these simple acts. And it
Mhm.
may feel like not enough. I'm not doing anything. I'm not,
Right, right.
I'm not, especially once you get the kind of high from doing civil disobedience and like knowing
Uh-huh.
people like Cliff Kindy who like put their
Yeah.
bodies on the line through these wars, and there's a war going on right now, like I should go to Ukraine. And like, so there is a certain level of I'm going to fall short to what I thought I would be doing with my life right now,
Hmm.
according to these people that
Yeah.
I was blessed to know and how they responded to every
Yes.
single act of social injustice. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there is another there is something to give those other acts where like you being a good person and a kind person and being compassionate and like noticing who needs help and stopping what you are doing to
Hmm.
listen to someone,
Hmm.
that is changing that person's whole entire world in that
Hmm.
moment. And so there's a lot of things that, you know, you can do, and I think we don't necessarily put it in the same camp as
Hmm.
like social activism, but I feel like it comes from the same place in the heart. So like
Hmm.
why wouldn't you stop and listen to someone who is like really having a hard time,
Hmm.
you know, to to do that for somebody, even when you might be late to work.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. That kind of thing, like stopping for somebody else that you don't know, a stranger, and
Yeah.
listening to them. And other things too, but
Yeah.
if you want to help people, you don't have to go march in the streets, and I
Yeah.
feel like those are some of the ways that I am choosing that to be a part of my life all the time, even aside
Yeah.
from my massage practice. And it looks a little differently, but I think it is still very important to just the person you want to be, and to be in
Yeah.
a place where you can be that person takes a lot of work. So
Hmm. Hmm. Totally. Totally. Beautiful. I really appreciate you diving in on that because I was curious because yeah, you bring me such reminders of breath and you remind me that it's that the work each of us is doing is unique and special and very important. Like as I observe you and like and I choose to look in the mirror and say this is, the path I'm on. Yes, there might be some little shifts and changes in the coming years. I might choose to help this way in different ways or do this differently, but yeah, I mean, I think the conversation is always it's just a good conversation to be having, like it's a good conversation to be having, talking through the downloads that we got because we all got different downloads growing up and then sorting through like, okay, are these downloads I want to pass on to the future generations and or can I make little edits, right? I mean, my mom and dad have given me amazing downloads, but there are some little edits and they know that. My mom talked about it openly. My dad's, like they know we're going to make little edits for the better, and that's part of the journey forward, I think. Anyway, all right. One final question for you, just because I mean I could talk to you for a couple more hours, but um, just because of my curiosity about you. Um, so somebody's brand new just to the world of body, mind, spirit, wellness, or like so that's so that could be an audience member, but also it could be like if you wanted to just leave the listeners with a few key points to just chew on, to ruminate with, like think about as they're walking into their week, um, after listening, like what would be a few like just pieces you might invite people into like the if you got a room full of 20,000, we don't currently have that many listeners, but maybe one day. But if you had a room full of 20,000 and it was like, all right, here's my final three things I want to make sure people heard. Or I want people to chew on.
yeah,
No
that's a tough
pressure, no
one.
pressure. I mean, you've
It
given so many good downloads throughout the whole thing. I mean, I've already I could do
well,
nine of yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting because I physically get uncomfortable thinking about that scenario.
No,
So
yeah, yeah.
like
Fair
about
enough.
public speaking,
Oh, got you.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's funny, but as far, I definitely could share a message valuable to people. And it would be related to overcoming personal challenge. I think that would be good. I think when I first thought about that, what comes to mind is we do talk so much, and some part of me questions, like, what is there that I could say to really impact people? I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I really think I'm more of an experienced kind of person. So I think I
Yeah.
might be more inclined to, wow, wonder how many of these people in this audience like have ever experienced like a moment of oneness. I think I would probably be inclined to try to do some type of silent meditation with everyone, because there is something about being connected that you just have to feel and experience that probably would be more impactful, that maybe people would remember that time. So if depending on the nature of that scenario, but it would be different if I actually were to execute that kind of activity. But I
Mm.
am also like brought back to a time when I was in what was profound, I still remember to this day. And it was a very much like a physical mind body experience, getting introduced to a breathing exercise.
Mhm.
So some type of meditation with where we were silent to experience that connection with one another, like, I guess when in the Church of the Brethren growing up, when you're singing a hymn all together, your hearts are beating as one. And when you
Mhm.
are there with the intention, you might have to do a little, depending on the group, a little like intro and like, this is the concept, and let's try
Mhm.
this, let's experience this. And the reason being is this is a tool accessible to you. And if you go out and you have a group that you are part of, try this alone, try this
Mhm.
with your group, try this with anyone, try to integrate
Mhm.
this in your life is meditation. Because whether you're alone and you feel connected to the world in a different way, there's something that happens in yourself, mind, body, and spirit, that a oneness that's
Mhm.
very profound with you and your mindset in the world when you open your eyes again, to go do what you're going to do, or say what you're going to say. So I
Mhm.
think that kind of experience, what was introduced to me at a mediation, I was involved with a mediation nonprofit in high school and college, and we were, I think there was like some cops, there was like a mediation kind of seminar going on that we were part of, and there, for some reason, there was like some people from the police force there, and
Mhm.
they actually shared with us a breathing exercise that I still do to this day.
Mm.
um 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, because it was in college, and
Mhm.
where you breathe in 4 times, and then you hold your breath for 4 counts before breathing out, 4 counts, and then you stop for 4 counts before breathing in. So you pause at the top of your breath and at the bottom of your breath. Um, and for them sharing it to us, they shared it in a way, this is what we do physically to bring down our heartbeat when we are in a high intense situation that's maybe dangerous to us. We have to calm our heart rate. And this is how you can do it. And I would say, gosh, nowadays, that, teaching that breathing exercise and feeling that and knowing that you could utilize that in a moment of anxiety, in a moment of turmoil, I think that would be the direction I would head. Because honestly, I can talk a lot about nothing, as you know, that
No, that, I mean, just listen to
most
you
of the,
share that. That was so, I mean, that put me into oneness right there.
so I feel like if I start talking about anything to that group, they're just gonna maybe start thinking about something else, even if what I
Yeah.
have to say is very cool.
Yeah.
Um,
But I
a
love that
story,
one. I love that oneness. I mean, the oneness piece,
yeah,
like feeling
yeah,
that there is something to it. I mean, even as you started into that, I literally felt like I was just connecting with your voice, the sound of your voice. Like my body's here, but like I wasn't like as aware of my physical, like it was like I was just immersing myself. And I do that a lot with music, like where I just like can just get lost in music.
One other
Anyway.
little piece, because I know we're at the tail end, that I
Yeah.
did want to share.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I think
Yeah.
because it was I think it I think maybe it is an example for other people that does give hope, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily in a way that you can um change the world. And I think everyone's so different. So how one person, how I overcame this challenge
Mm-hmm.
may be so irrelevant to someone else because their challenge might be greater. Or so what,
Mm-hmm.
that there's a certain level of like, you don't want to be like bragging that you overcame something because it may not help somebody. But
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like there are a lot of people kind of nowadays awakening to, oh my gosh, I have experienced a lot of trauma in my life and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And there is a certain element, I think, of helplessness. Like, I feel like a lot of people really are aware now of all of the mental health issues and trauma on big levels or small levels. And we're talking about it. So a little bit more than maybe when I grew up.
Totally.
But there's still this big wide area of like, well, so what to do about it? What are you going to do? So I just want to share very, very, if I can, quickly
Yeah.
about
Oh, yeah.
one way that I did. I'm so lucky I did not have very much trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a counselor would hear me like, oh girl, you had but there are some people that experience a crazy, insane amount of very intense trauma in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very lucky compared to whatever we hold and know as to be extreme amounts of trauma in their
Mm-hmm.
life. Luckily, I have not. And luckily, like I said, I've always been pretty happy as my baseline kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say I haven't struggled, but I would say those struggles have been fairly petty, and it's great to overcome breakups and hardships and things like that. But they're in a whole different camp of like normal life's ups and downs.
Yeah.
Um, and people often would, when I would, especially growing up in Indiana, when I would travel, like, how aren't you afraid? How are you not afraid? I never could relate. No, I'm so
Yeah.
freaking excited to get out of Indiana. Like, what are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh.
afraid. So I did have maybe 10 years ago, after living life, experiencing life, I had a traumatic experience when I was traveling. And it was like a type of experience where it was like getting robbed with a gun to your head. I don't talk about this experience very often, but it was in a different category of kind of potential for high trauma. It was fairly highly traumatic. At the time, it was interesting because I was just sad because I'm like,
Mm.
I just, at the time, I was like, I am the person that wants to help you. Whatever is going
Yeah.
on in your life that is causing you to need this, to do this,
Yeah.
and to think that, like, if you want my money right now, like, oh, let's be friends and I'll give you even more money. Like, I have
Yeah.
so much more to offer you, than whatever you're
Yeah.
trying to get in this moment. So it was a pretty, I would say for me, the first time in my life after having that experience that I thought, oh wow, now I am a little scared. Am I gonna ever travel again? And I was very like, I was mildly, at least at a minimum,
Yeah.
mildly traumatized by that.
Yeah.
And I luckily, having years of self-care, was able to go to hot yoga
Mm-hmm.
and start feeling
Mm-hmm.
better. But I did have nightmares, and I started feeling like a little scared of like the world's closing in on me. Am I going to want to travel again? I started feeling like the heaviness of what I'd gone through like may change me into a different person that was like further from myself, of being like free, and my true
Yeah.
self was kind of like way, weaning in the background. And I did feel that kind of potential. It was just a dead weight of potential of, oh my goodness, this one experience may get me. And so
Yeah.
I did everything, and I started feeling like, okay, I'm working on this. I think I'll be fine. And I
Mm-hmm.
did bring in, I had learned of EMDR, And
Yep.
EMDR is a very good proven way for addressing trauma. And so
Mm-hmm.
I kind of met with someone and did that. And she kind of also was like, yeah, I think you're fine. I don't think you need more sessions. So I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling pretty good, like, okay, I am addressing this. I am self-healing. I've got this, and
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. And so I felt pretty good about that. I share this very lightly because this is just my one tiny little experience, but um what I did afterwards was I actually went back to the Camino, and
Yeah.
I planned a trip to Spain, and I got a house sitting gig in a town I'd never been. So I was, at that time still playing around with being able to afford time off during Telluride's off season, where you
Yeah.
really don't have any income. And I was trying to afford the time off, but if I could do it in a cheap way, then it was still new to me to see if I could manage that. So my way was I got this house sitting gig for a month. So I had free housing and got the plane ticket, and then I had the time to be over there. Um,
Mm.
and so I went over there. I did the house sitting gig. I kind of lived my life. I was comfortable over there. It was great. And then the second month I was over there, I hiked the northern route of Spain, the Camino del Norte. And it
Mm-hmm.
was very different because I was like very much wanting to do it alone. And this time around, I wasn't I knew that people were going to want to join me on my hike along the way. And I was like, no, this is for me. I have a lot
Yeah.
of grieving to do in addition to wanting to heal the trauma. And it really was my personal way of responding to this experience that I had. And there were some other losses that I had experienced. So there was a grieving element to it, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to the trauma that I was wanting to. Basically, my mantra for that hike was, and I had done it before, so I kind of knew what to expect as far as the experience of hiking the Camino. But
Mm-hmm.
the mantra was like, I really believe that the grieving and trauma really is it's invisible, kind of like emotions are, but it's like a very heavy, very real weight inside of us. And I
Yeah.
wanted to try to let that go and make more space inside of my body for light and joy and laughter, and let go of that heavy, sad
Yeah.
fear, everything related to the trauma and the grieving of
Yeah.
losing a loved one. And that was
Yeah.
kind of my mantra, was like, with every step, I want to heal myself, heal from the
Yeah.
experience, heal from, the hardships in life of losing loved ones. And
Yeah.
the reason I share it is because it really did, for me, it worked. Like
Yeah.
I it could be something totally different. It could be a metaphor for somebody else who's like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
go hike in Spain. However, I feel like the healing process is very real. It's
Yeah.
invisible. It's different for everybody else. It's hard to talk about because you can't quite put your finger on it. It's one
Mm-hmm.
thing to like the mystery of how the body heals itself in a physical way, but when
Mm-hmm.
healing does happen on an emotional level after grief, loss, trauma, it's even trickier to understand because it crosses a long span. It takes time. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I wanted to quite literally put my body in a place of being vulnerable and trusting the universe on a
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day physical level. Like, I have
Mm-hmm.
every reason to be scared right now, and I'm going to combat that with having trust that things are going to work out, that this special place of the world we live in, the universe, the manifestation of positive thoughts, like, I'm going to put trust in the universe again, and take the risk, but to try to heal, to go back
Mm-hmm.
to my true self, which is wanting to love life and be free, right? And
Yeah.
so that was kind of how I responded to that experience. And since then, just like the first time I hiked the Camino, and it kind of lived it on in my life, like afterwards, in a way that it can spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
on a meditative level, and overcoming other obstacles. It The second time around when I hiked the Camino, coming from that place and hoping to heal on that level and have that special kind of experience of solitude and embark on a healing journey as well. And it worked. And I just am in awe of the healing process that's inside of ourselves, and that we have we may not always have the option to choose it right away, but we do have it inside of ourselves. And everyone, depending on what the nature of the trauma or grief or loss is, you may need more resources and help and support from others to get there. However, it really is possible, you know, and it's the healing process can happen. And if you get to hear somebody's story and know that you can heal and talk to people who have gone through things, it just gives you more of a reason to not just try out gratitude, but to really like utilize it in times of hardship, to believe in it, just like we know we need to drink water to survive. Like there is a certain tool, like it is a life skill and a tool that you may need to learn a little bit of how to use that tool, but it really is real, and healing is there, and it's available and accessible, and it takes time though.
Yeah. Woo. Beautiful. I'm glad you shared that. I'm glad you shared that. That's such a, I mean, so real. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's such a good reminder. I think we can just let's close on that sharing, and I'll just add my piece that we're each on unique paths. We're each on unique paths, finding our way forward. And fortunately, there are lots of tools, guides, teachers, experiences, moments like ahead of us. I'm choosing that for all of us, those of you who are listening, like that we will find those things that resonate with us, and find those teachers that resonate with us, find those practitioners that resonate with you, you know, like that we'll each have courage to like keep on going, and knowing that we're not alone, that healing process, like you said, it's not overnight. You know, how many years has it taken me to forgive stuff that happened, you know, how long ago? You know, this is the real journey. But it's so important that we keep going. It's so important that we keep going, because that is going to, and I like with Thich Nhat Hanh, as you and I, as we all grow our piece, it definitely ripples and has a huge impact beyond what we can imagine. So thanks for showing up to episode 47. Ambrosia Brown, thanks so much for sharing your heart and your stories and your presence with us. And be in touch with, I'll make sure I put Ambrosia's info in the description for those of you who want to connect and follow her journey, or, you know, perhaps if you're in the area where she's given amazing massages, treatments, you might be able to sneak on her calendar. I would imagine it's pretty squished already, but having been offering treatments there in Telluride for a while, but maybe she'll be able to sneak you on her calendar. Anyway, thanks for being here. Big love to y'all. Thanks, Ambrosia. Grateful for you.
Aloha. Take care.
Aloha. Adios.